The Talk Python to Me podcast live. Whoop. Hey, folks. Hello, hello. Don't need the audio introduction. We just had the picture. So, welcome to the live stream. I have Paul Everett from the PyCharm team here who decided to drop in graciously and join me. And we may get some other folks come in here as well. Hey, Richard. Greetings. San Diego is a nice place. I used to live out there, and the weather's nicer than it is. It's pouring down rain here in Portland, but I do like Portland as well. So thank you all for being here. This is going to be super informal. Here's the deal. I recently got one of these Apple M1 machines, and I was really curious, as I know a lot of you out there who do Python are wondering, like, can I use this for what I do? I have to do Docker. Can I do that? I have to run Python. Will I be able to run it? Will it be super fast? Will it be crazy slow? You know, what's the story? What's going to happen? So that's what this is about. We're just going to go through. I've got some general ideas of things that I thought, you know what, this is kind of interesting, and let's just explore it. But I also, for those of you who are out there, you know, if you've got questions or you're like, oh, could you try this package or could you try this random thing? If it's not too involved, you know, and it won't be too abrasive to the machine, I'm happy to try it out. So I'm going to switch over and do a little side-by-side screen sharing here. Put that out of the way. So notice over here, I'm hiding my serial number. I'm not sure how important that is, but we have our macOS Big Sur, which is what you basically have to have on M1. I don't think you can have an older version. And we've got the Mac Mini, 16 gigs of RAM, 2 terabytes of space. So it's basically all knobs to 11. Well, I don't know, maybe to 7. Like the knobs don't go that high on the Apple M1s, right? Right, Paul?
My question for you is, I can barely hear you over the CPU fan of my ancient, meaning 2019 MacBook Pro. I want to know, can you hear your fan? Well, do you have a fan?
I do have a fan, and that's one of the reasons I chose the Mac Mini. You know, I'll kind of talk about my setup in a moment, but I cannot hear it. And if I touch this thing, I was doing video exports and audio exports, working on the podcast earlier on Talk Python to Me, and it didn't even get warm. I mean, it barely got warmer than just metal at room temperature. But, you know,
not even Camtasia with your 2K export settings?
No, by the way, Camtasia does suck a little bit on the M1 for a little while.
Okay,
but it does work. We'll get to that. It's really, really interesting how quiet. Like it literally, you cannot tell that it's on. It has no temperature. If you put your hand in the back, you can feel that there's a little bit of air, but even in most cases, the air is not warm. It's just flowing through. Mm. So, you know, I have 2 other machines, speaking of like the setup. So one of the questions people said, oh, you're super brave to switch to the M1 chip. I'm like, well, it's not that brave because, you know, I have right next to me here, you can't see it, but right next to me is a 2018 like super high-end MacBook Pro 15-inch, which is Intel. If I need it, I just move the monitor cable over and the USB hub, and I'm back there. And then over there, I have a sim racing machine that's got like it sounds literally like a helicopter's in the room when it sounds like, and it's like crazy. So I've got all the Intel stuff that I need if I need to switch over, right? So for me, it was pretty easy to just say, well, let's try this M1 thing. I heard it was fast. You know, I don't think what's super important about this is benchmarks, actually. There's been so many benchmarks, and it drives me crazy. I don't know about you, Paul, but if you've been watching any of the stuff on YouTube, everyone's like, do you know how good I can edit 8K video? It's so smooth, and I can move it around. And I'm just like, that's cool. I don't really care about your 8K video. Like, I want to build apps and run websites and database servers. And like, does that work or not, right?
And that's really what your audience cares about, right?
I think so. I hope so. I think that's what the reason I'm making this is because I haven't seen a really great example. I've seen some people talking about WebStorm, but they are kind of like, I've never run WebStorm, but someone said I should try to run it. So like that doesn't seem like a great evaluation. So first of all, but let's just get benchmarks out of the way really quick. I did throw up over here a quick comparison. Let's just go, where's it? My account is how I do this. This thing's always so weird. It says log in even though I'm logged in. So here's the numbers on, can I make that bigger? Yeah. On Geekbench for my 3 machines. So I have my MacBook Pro, like top end, like Core i9, right? 2018 MacBook Pro. my Alienware Ryzen Threadripper, 8
Ooh.
hyper-threaded cores, right? And I've got my Mac Mini. But look at the numbers on single core, right? The $3,500 MacBook Pro is 1,121.
Threadripper?
The Threadripper. I mean, the thing sounds like a helicopter, and it is a wicked machine, as you'll see in a second. But look how...
Okay. Wait, slow down. I need to take a picture of this because my son trash talks me all the time.
Yeah.
About the Threadripper.
Tell him you're going to be bringing a Mac Mini or MacBook
Oh,
Air.
yeah. All right.
There
we go.
Yeah, that's crazy. And now if you look at
over.
even the multi-thread score, the Mini is winning. And this is like, if I pull up, Task Manager and Windows on the Alienware, it will say it has 16 processors. I mean, it is a beast, and it's still got beat. It has no limits on the amount of fans that it uses. So that to me is like, all right, this is something special here.
Hey, and look on the bright side, Python is so much simpler. When you get the single core score, you also have the multi-core score, right?
Exactly. It's the same. So other thing, I don't know why they call it compute, because this is really just GPU. But if you check it out, I also ran GPU for this one, and there's you can run on Metal or OpenGL or OpenCL. So the MacBook Pro with like the highest graphics card you could get for that version was 2100. The Mini matches that, which actually really surprised me. I thought it would be less because it's on chip, but this one does go a little higher. So if you're trying to
do you think those numbers are to GPU cores? Number of GPU cores?
I suspect it's pretty sensitive. I would think. Yeah.
So these rumors about M2 is going to have a bazillion GPU cores.
Yeah. I think it's going to matter. I think it's going to matter a lot, actually. It'll be really interesting. So, I posted one thing I kind of like to explore maybe is like, could I run this app? Right? This is a pretty non-trivial app where we have the courses that has the players, that has APIs. There's mobile apps on Android and iOS that talk to the APIs. There's a database. Like, could that thing be run here on this? So it's really, really interesting. And just so people know, I tweeted this yesterday because I was sort of thinking ahead about this and also for something else. So that's about 25,000 lines of Python, which I think is a lot for Python, but not for other things. Who knows? Anyway, so let's just do a little exploration, and then ultimately I think we'll try to run that. We could also see if other people have questions. So Richard says, I know stuff runs incredibly fast in M1, but on the other hand, file I/O is really slow with bare bones Mini. You know what's... I think it's pretty fast. Man, I was seeing like 3.5 gigabit write speed and 2.5 gigabit read speed. Like, to me, it seems really fast. So let me just give you a quick example. I got to be careful to not close the one that is streaming, but let's close this one real quick. So for some reason, Firefox, even on my other machine, takes a while to shut down. I don't know. It's just weird. But watch how quick this starts. So if I start this, it probably won't even complete a single hop. Yeah, but by the time it's completed a hop, like the UI is already shown on these things.
Now that's a warm start. You've run it once.
Here's one that I haven't run before. And it's that's an Intel one, right? Like, let's see.
That was Rosetta 2?
That's Rosetta. Yeah, that was a Rosetta one. This one's definitely a Rosetta one. Here's one that takes a long time to run, so we can let that go. Normally, this takes about 5 seconds to start on my MacBook Pro. And I think it starts faster, and that's Rosetta. So if I were over here and I were to like load up, this is Audition, which I use to edit the podcast and the audio of the courses. So this one's super intensive. It'll do like a 10-second compute to like denoise, and then a 10-second audio adjust, and then a whole bunch of stuff, right? This one is about 3 times faster on the Mac Mini as it is on my MacBook Pro. Now, that sounds awesome, but if I run Camtasia is about 5 times slower exporting a video. So you're getting, like, they're both under Rosetta. It's just such a mixed bag. Like, Camtasia works for recording screen and editing, but if you do exports, it's super slow. They say it doesn't work. I don't know. It seemed to generate stuff just fine for me. I think
for the audience, Michael and I are not actual programmers. We just sit in front of Camtasia all the time.
Yeah, that's true. We just
That's our IDE.
It is. It totally is. So let's talk about Python a little bit. And let me get another IDE out of the way really quick for you, Paul. Just not an IDE, I'm an editor. So do you
Sure.
notice anything weird about my taskbar? Like a common icon that looks wrong?
Let's
Like
see.
orange?
There's something
There's
that's
two.
chopped off a
I
little.
would say everything that is orange is weird on this screen. So first of all, check this out. This is Overcast. This is the iPad version
Oh
of the podcast.
yeah.
And you can hit like the little pause, play, skip ahead, like all the cool little like
Uh-huh.
sweet nuances that you would have working also work just like right here. So I've been really enjoying like listening to this. I tweeted that out, right? But check this out. So Visual Studio Code opened up in less than a hop. I've been setting up
Yep.
some of my scripts and stuff. But this is the exploration version running on ARM64.
Oh, cool.
So the
All right.
orange one is this one. I also have ARM64 Firefox and ARM64 Chrome. All those running seem to be great.
Hey, the Overcast, I thought I saw something that it said that was an example of an app that really didn't do well look and feel wise in the whole transporting iOS to.
It's doing better than I expected. Like I can
Okay.
come down here, I can click on this. These things kind of pop up. If I go here, you can see what I subscribe to. If I scroll my mouse wheel, I could like scroll my mouse wheel and see, like it seems pretty good actually. Like it's pretty mouse friendly or whatever. The one I heard that's really bad is HBO Max.
Ah,
Like,
that is the one I
you
heard.
can't play. You can't even maximize
Yeah.
the window, and full screen just full screen
It's
this
in a-
little shell. But yeah, it's so weird. Okay, so a lot of cool things were happening like that. Like there was, I don't think any app that I'm like, oh, I can't run this. But what I did find that was pretty weird is there's another thing that's weird about this down here is check this out, Paul. So I have Terminal, and then I have Terminal.
Oh yeah. Oh, huh.
Let's see what it says. Rosetta.
Did you label it?
I did. Look, I am a programmer, man. I know you tried to
Oh,
take
yeah,
me down a
yeah.
notch here, but check. I went down here. Where did my apps go? Here, there. So I went down here and I found Terminal. Where's Terminal? Oh, it's probably under Utilities. It belongs at its top level. Who did that?
You're such
Right.
a dork. You're showing .app.
I know. Of course, you've got to see all the extensions. So I went over here and I copy pasted this. And then I went here, and if you run it normally, it would run under Apple. But if you go to Get Info,
Oh,
you can say always run under Rosetta.
Ah.
Like, look at that right there.
Ah.
So that's interesting because what that means is the stuff that you do afterwards, it inherits the Intelness of it. So, for example, if
What,
I
you
go,
mean like any process that's launched from it?
yes, exactly. So watch this. So if I go over here and I type Python 391 is running, and I go up here and I search for Python. This thing refreshes slowly, but check out the architecture's Apple. Yeah. So if I exit out of that one and I go to this
That's a new
one
column.
and I say Python, this when it refreshes, now it's Intel. So
That's a cool tip.
This is the thing that will unlock Python and NumPy and all those sort of things that require wheels, but that you don't have wheels for the M1, is if you just do that and then you, whatever you do, if you pip install something from here, or you create a virtual environment, it does it with the Intel version of Python. That's cool, right?
I wonder what that means for like shared libraries and stuff.
For what? Sorry, just a sec. There.
I wonder what that means for shared libraries and stuff.
I don't know. It's a complicated world.
I guess.
Jay's out there, and he says, "Oh, hey, Final Cut Co and Logic are all something you work with all the time." I think.
Oh, good for you, Jay.
Yeah, man, those would be great. And Jay, you're welcome. I'm happy to like invite you to
Yeah.
the stream if you want to come on. I'm not sure how to do
Haven't
that.
seen you in
actually.
2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, there you are. See, can I invite you? I'm not sure. Here, I'll send this over to you.
And our friend, the Peaceful Penguin, I believe Docker did a screenshot today or some semi-secret announcement or something. Did you see that, Michael?
I did not see that. Tell me about it.
About being able to run on M1, I think maybe it was like QEMU emulation or something.
Okay.
some hackety hack thing. I suspect they got their hands full.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm another question from in here is, can it run Docker natively? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
No,
was talking
that's
about.
what you're talking. Okay, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Maybe eventually, but the question, it's not yes or no. It's, can it run Docker, and then what? What will Docker run in? Right? Like, do you have to have an ARM version of Linux that you can then run the Docker version of, or can it be an Intel?
That's a good point.
I don't
Because
know.
Docker's main claim to fame is that it's not emulation.
Yeah.
It's because it's a container, it's still kind of in the Linux architecture, and therefore you inherit the processor architecture of the parent, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like such a thin wrapper, right? So if what I think is going to happen is we're going to only be able to go for VMs that are ARM based, but possibly those VMs themselves will run x64 or
Yeah.
Intel stuff, right? Like they just got x86, x64 working on ARM Windows through an emulation mode. So layers.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
That
So
was
that could be a good way to open things up. All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think this is the real trick here to kind of unlocking stuff, is this Rosetta thing, because now I can run Homebrew and all the things that Homebrew needs. So I could say brew list. I don't know if that'll show all my stuff or whatever, but yeah. So apparently these are the things I've installed. Like for example, I installed the MongoDB server over here on Apple M1, but it's the Intel version managed through the Intel Homebrew. So basically all the tools and things that you were used to working with before work. So here, let's do something interesting. I'm going to get out of the, I'm going to close this so we can more carefully see. We go to my desktop here and make a directory called install M1. And I'm going to create a virtual environment. Wait for it. And then I'm going to run Python. I'm going to see that is hopefully Apple update. Okay, this is Apple. Cool. So this is the Apple one. And then what I want to do is I want to see if I can install the dependencies needed for TalkPython training. Okay. We're not going to try to run the whole app in there because chances are it's not going to work. But let's go over here.
Oh, this is freaky. Because you've got a pip cache.
Yeah, I know. And it may work because I did install the things that previously didn't work.
Okay, listeners, before he does this, let's do a straw poll. Is this going to work? I'm 50-50.
Well, I'm 60 against, but let's give it a shot. So PIR is pip install -r requirements -dev.txt. Okay. So it's looking pretty good so far, yeah? I mean, we've got a lot of requirements for this website. It does a ton of stuff.
And this is pyramid, so you're going to get some C extensions.
Yes, exactly. Now, we failed to build the wheel for cryptography, and there is no wheel for cryptography for M1, right? The wheels are precompiled binaries for given architectures. And also, we apparently failed to build MicroWSGI. Now, what I don't know is, do I just not have it set up enough to build cryptography and enough to build MicroWSGI? Or is it they don't build here? I'm not.
Look at cryptography and see if it's a failure with OpenSSL.
It is. It is. Up here.
Which it should have gotten from Homebrew.
I've already brewed, installed SSL, and I have all the Xcode stuff installed as well.
This was always a gotcha for Homebrew Python on Intel. There was a couple of years where you had to set an environment variable in order to compile it correctly.
Yeah, and I think
the cryptography module.
Yeah. And maybe I just don't have that set right. So I don't know for sure that this is not going to work, right? I'm not entirely sure. But it doesn't matter if I deactivate it because I've got to go to no shell. Okay, so now if we go over here.
While you're doing that, Nicola in the chat mentioned that support for Docker is apparently 6 to 8 months away.
That does not surprise me. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. All right, so we're over here in the Intel, more accurately, we're in the Rosetta shell,
Ah,
which
here we go.
then if I run Python, we saw already that it's going to be the Intel version. So if I just do the same command, pip install -r requirements -dev.txt, or I just
This
type
is the freakiest damn thing.
it's such a weird world, right? Like we haven't had this problem for a really long time. It meant if something was weird like that, it's like, oh, you're on a different platform,
Yeah.
right? But no, we're all good now. They're all there.
So when you did your homebrew install, was it Rosetta install
Yes,
or?
yes, I installed, like, the homebrew is Rosetta based, so it's Intel based. And so I heard there's a bunch of problems with homebrew not being ready for M1 and all. So I'm like, all right, well, let me use this little shim of this Rosetta terminal, and then we can, sort of use that to bootstrap all the stuff that I need to do. Yeah.
So when you did you do any reading about the Python ARM version that came out in the past week and whether it had any issues about compiling against OpenSSL?
No, I did see a message from Brett Cannon saying, please be kind to us. We're working on it. Not every single dependency like cryptography has a wheel.
All right.
So it's just going to take a few months for those things to propagate to like CI systems that build the wheels and whatnot.
And a lot of upstream stuff that's not under their control.
Yeah. All right. Want to do one more thing? This one will be near and dear to your heart. So
I'm terrified.
This is the Intel Rosetta version of PyCharm. So this is a pretty big app. It runs really, really quickly on my Intel Mac. It actually runs slower here, which kind of was a little bit of a bummer. Not so slow that you're like, good night, what is wrong with this thing? But it is a tiny bit slower than before. So here, just to show that thing really does run. Notice this would load up a tiny bit faster.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's still completely fine, and I'm happy with it. I know maybe you could tell people what the whole JetBrains M1 side of things is.
It's actually kind of an interesting story because it covers a lot of things that other people might be up against and trying to get their software over. Kind of skipped to the end of the chase. I saw a video in our internal Slack from one of the leads for WebStorm, and she was showing a side-by-side of a native build of WebStorm launching with a big code base at the same time as an Intel build. And it was faster. It was a lot faster. Indexing was a lot faster, but just the launch was faster. And so for us, we got a hell of a stack underneath us, not to mention Docker, but we got a hell of a stack because we got JVM, we got Swing, we got things to do with fonts and anti-aliasing. And, if you want to speed up the scroll speed, you got to turn off anti-aliasing for now and stuff like that. And so that gap between it works versus it works well is just going to be kind of a chipping away at it. But that video that she showed me was, wow.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to when I go up here, it has a little M1 or something. I can somehow choose a little special flavor out of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for now, it works. So let me just go ahead and hit run. And we go over here. There it is. This is the whole like, multi-tier data-driven web app running that people might know about. 25-ish thousand lines of Python and almost 4,000 lines of CSS. Please help me.
And database backend is local or not?
Is a local MongoDB server.
MongoDB, all right.
So this is running Intel Python, talking to Intel MongoDB. Both of them managed through Intel Homebrew. Apparently also running on, I guess this is technically Intel version because it ran through the Rosetta version for PyCharm, not through the terminal thing we talked about. All right, so here let me show you one thing that's a little bit slightly like a tiny bit of a bummer. if I go over here and I go to the network and I click on the home page, it's 19 milliseconds. Now there's like several database queries, 3 or 4 database queries that have to be happening on this front page. So it's like not just static, right? So 19 milliseconds, that's pretty decent. 28, 23. If I come over here, 78 the first time, 59, 54. It's a little bit faster on the Intel Mac directly.
Got it.
So these response times are probably like 40 milliseconds here. And then over here, it's, we got 19. That's about as good as we get, but we're getting pretty reliably at 38, and I think we were at more like 20 milliseconds reliably on the Intel machine. So it's not quite as fast. There was a question of how long it took to run the tests.
I was just going to ask you that.
Oh, do you want to even see if the tests run? Let's see. Okay. We can try. Here we go. That's running pretty quick. There's one of them that's going to be slower than the others. It's doing like certain things like testing, like integration with AWS files and junk like that. So those are going to be slow. That's pretty quick, actually.
I wonder what the rerun time would be like. I wonder, interpreted languages and cache hits are a big thing.
Yeah. I can run it again. That's easy.
Or in our case, cache not hits. And so I wonder if going through Rosetta on the way to ARM means that the interpreter is never, ever, 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 ever going to get a cache hit.
It's a good question.
And I don't mean database cache hit. I mean like opcode.
Yeah, you're talking like L1 machine level cache.
Yeah.
So while we're talking, I'm going to run it over on my other Intel machine just to see what those. So 12 seconds.
12 seconds, all right?
That's not too bad, honestly. One of the things, you should think of these as integration tests, not just unit tests.
Yep, unit tests, yeah.
So one of the things it does is it pulls the sitemap and it hits every page like fully as part of that. And there's like 3,000 pages. So it doesn't hit every single one, but it decides that these are all similar, so I'm going to hit it just once. All right, so running over here on my theory is if I can hit every page in the sitemap and it doesn't crash, I'm pretty close to it working. Actually, and that's
Stefan, I have a question for you about AdBlock. Are you implying that AdBlock also pays a tax when Michael has the developer console open and is looking at response time in the browser? It could be. Do you think Michael, do you think AdBlock kicks in when you're in the developer console?
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. But they were apples to apples comparisons, like same extensions, both in the developer console. So I did exactly the same thing on my Intel.
Okay, that's a good point.
All right, you ready for something interesting though? This whole set of integration tests plus unit tests ran in 12.8 seconds on the Mini M1. Over on my MacBook Pro, it's 18.4.
18.4?
Yeah. So this is like 50% faster.
Is it a warm versus cold thing?
Yeah, I ran it twice. Yeah, the first time it was like over 20. I'll run it one more time, but it's coming up around 18. So that's
2-year-old MacBook Pro.
And this is the Core i9 6-core,
i9,
32 gigs of RAM. Like it's not messing around. This is like the all knobs to 11 version of the MacBook Pro 2 years ago. And it's running one more time. PyTest passed all the tests. This time it took 17.6. So third time it sped up a tiny bit, but not enough to like appreciably make any difference, right? So this is actually surprising to me, given that the response time on the web browser was a slight bit slower. Maybe the networking stack, or I don't know if there's something else, because it's the integration side is talking to MongoDB end to end. So anyway, I think that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah. Hey, have you heard that? I heard from the JetBrains Rider team that .NET, the compilation of .NET Core on the M1 is a lot slower than the i9, except in some cases parts of it's faster or something. Have you heard anything like that? That really low level stuff is?
I have not. I've heard that compiling Chrome is like 30% faster on M1.
Oh, okay.
So, that that much I've heard, but I don't know about .NET. I did, by the way, install this. So here's your .NET running on
Okay.
Apple M1, right? .NET 5 Core,
Yeah,
whatever. I care about .NET.
I'm just
because
curious because
our
we
mobile
were
apps.
talking about stuff that's interpreted languages, and I just wonder if.
Yeah. Right, here's a JIT, a machine level type thing. So we use
right.
.NET and Xamarin to build our iOS and Android apps. So that's why I care a lot about having
Got
it
it.
on here.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. Well, you just need to get Anthony Shaw to do a JIT for the M1 or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to deselect the comment there. Yeah, we just got to get Anthony Shaw to get Pigeon plugged into that .NET stuff, and we'll be jamming.
Somebody buy him a M1.
Yeah, well, there's one thing is the money, the other is the availability. Like
Sure.
I was going to buy one, and I thought, nah, you know what? There's not enough much RAM. There's not like I would really wanted a large 16-inch MacBook Pro that I'm just going to get and upgrade and like get the best one to replace my current one. And then I realized that thing doesn't even have Wi-Fi 6. It hasn't really been updated. Like it's in such a state of neglect the Intel MacBook Pros are. And I'm just like, I just got so sick of it. I actually went and canceled my order, and then I bought this. But because of that, it put like 2 more weeks of wait time because I waited a day and a half to make that decision, you know?
Hey, let me turn the interviewer role around and interview you on this.
Sure.
To get to the point you are now with the speed bumps and the dead ends and everything you had to acquire, the knowledge to get to the point of Talk Python running the tests and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we aren't talking about 6 full months of effort. We probably aren't talking about 6 days of effort. Are we talking how much more?
We're probably talking 45 minutes because I'm like, dang it, why won't this cryptography thing install? And I don't know what one of my dependencies needs it. It probably doesn't even use it, but it's in the requirements list of that package, so it has to be installed. And so I can't install this, and I can't run it here, right? And so I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Then I had to wait 30 minutes for Xcode to install because I'm like, well, maybe I need the Xcode playing stuff. That didn't fix it, but I installed it anyway.
Hey, when Lucas announced, or whoever it was that announced the Python version for M1, and you went and got it, did you run into a single hurdle in order to get to the interpreter REPL?
No, not at all. It was totally smooth. I actually went and got it off of python.org for that one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because I didn't know of another way. There may be a better way to get it, and that I just didn't try. But I'm like, how can I be sure that I don't get like Homebrew's Intel version or something like that, right? So I'm like, I'm just going to go
patches and stuff in there.
Exactly. I'm just going to go over here to python.org.
So you really just downloaded the source, did configure, make, install.
No, I think it's listed here. I think I can get it. Oh, here, let's go like this.
Oh, you got a binary.
Yeah, I got the binary. Look, this is the first. It is now possible to build universal binaries on Apple Silicon. So I just went and just downloaded this, and it was the right one I needed for M1. I couldn't install my dependencies. So I think one other thing we should play with while we're just looking at this real quick. Make sure I'm in the right. Gosh, let's close all these. I need to like change the background color, put an image or something, so I know which one I'm in. I think maybe a data science thing. What do you think?
Well said.
I'm gonna create a new
I
project.
have no idea what this.
I've not tried this either.
Oh man.
All right, so we're gonna run a thing called Nodi. I have no idea what that is. That just means I'm gonna install Jupyter Lab and try to run it, and then install NumPy or something. So let's just run Python to make sure we get the right version. Wait, because this is super slow to upgrade. Oh, there's so much Python. Why is it all run? Let's close this. One of those is. Wait. All right, we got the Apple one left. Cool. So pip install Jupyter Lab. Look at that Wi-Fi 6 going. Oh yeah, on the high-speed mesh network. What's really interesting is I got this new mesh network with 2 nodes, and the nodes, like the secondary part of the Wi-Fi thing, has a quad-core processor in just the in the router. And it has a fan. Like it's really big. It's bigger than my Mini. Oh, that's not encouraging. Apparently, I'm out of date on the. What happened here?
CFFI back in.
We working on which one are we trying to install here? Wheel, metadata, error.
NB convert. No,
Yeah.
Argon.
Let's see. Vendor pip. It's a pep 517 in process. I have no idea what that is actually. It doesn't work. So let's try this. This. And we will attempt the same thing. So, right? Was it? God, I really got to change the title or the color or something. Wait for it. I'm pretty confident this will work. I don't see why this wouldn't work. If I can get the website to run, this should run as well. Put it another way. If this doesn't work, it's probably not the Mac
Oh, you
one.
made it past Argon.
Yes. Look at it. It's roaring by. Wait. Oh.
Because you were able to use.
Hold up. Too many errors. Well, I think one is probably too many, but. Build the wheel for
Argon again.
Yeah, Argon again. Huh. That's not encouraging. I could always do this while we're talking. It is the world's most data science platform, so let's go and get started. Can I just download it? Thank you. There we go. I may have to lie to them about who I am. Sorry, guys.
Check your downstream speed.
Yep. All right. We're going graphical. How's the download working? Oh, that's pretty weak. But it should be there plenty quick. So we could try to install this and see if this will. This will work. I don't know for sure, but I would suspect because everything's compiled. Right. It should just get a one-time hit from Rosetta, and then go from there.
I've been meaning to ask you to kill a little bit of time, but I know you did a little bit of jamming within the past year and a half about Eric Snow's work.
On the sub-interpreters, yeah.
Sub-interpreter stuff, and really it's multi-core. And if his point was true before, it's really freaking true now that you start hearing about 32-core M2 chips and things.
Yeah, exactly. Or 128 for the...
Or 120 for Mac Pro.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and those things are possible these days, right? Because this thing uses like 5 watts. It's less than an LED light bulb to run the Mini. So you got plenty of room to turn up the temperature on it, and just give it more. All right, let's do this. These guys, I don't know if I trust them. All right, where'd it go? Come on back. There you are. You know what I miss? I totally miss the Touch ID. Okay. Install for all users. All right, seems to like that. I thought it said it couldn't do it, but it asked nicely a second time. It's really happy to do it.
Well, here's where we're going to see about this speed.
Yeah.
But getting back to that point, LWN talked about the pushback that Eric got, I guess, earlier this year about it's going to break NumPy, break the universe for possibly no gain and stuff like that. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on it. Do you feel like push things to 3.10 and sort it out later? Have you seen any movement on multi-core?
No, I mean, Eric said that he's done the foundational work to make it happen, but it's not really turned on, right? So I think multi-core is important in general. I think it's because even on my MacBook Pro with the hyper-threading, it had 12 cores and it was using 1, right? If I run Python, I'm getting like 8% of the capability.
Indeed. I think Stefan's point that he just made is correct.
About not trusting stuff.
The hash probably doesn't include an architecture identifier. It doesn't think that you can have multiple architectures.
Yeah, I think that's probably right as well. I don't know.
Maybe if you blew away your pip cache, you could make it past Argon.
Maybe. I'm just gonna install Anaconda. I'm gonna be like a Windows user.
The magic wand.
I don't know where my VCVAR's bat is. I'm gonna install Anaconda.
Yeah.
By the way, the first time you run anything that is on Rosetta, it's a lot slower than it ultimately is going to. It gets translated into the ARM variant, and I think that gets saved and cached, and then that gets run the second time. So anyway, it might be doing a ton of that right now.
That was a difference from Rosetta 1 back in the day.
Which is like a runtime thing, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I'm blown away that there's this much compatibility, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, Paul, look at what's next in my install bulleted list thing.
Haha.
Doesn't it already have
It's grayed out. We're getting there.
One thing while we're waiting on this, I want to touch on this as well. If I go to Apple, they make this thing called the Mac Mini, which we're playing with. So one of the things that people complain about, like this is effectively what I have. I have a slightly different sized version of that. But if I scroll down here, people say this thing has, on both sides, it has these two Thunderbolt ports. Mm-hmm. And so if I go to like the Mac Mini, I'm losing ports because the Mini only has 2 Thunderbolt ports and the Pro has 4. But that's not the right way to think of it. Check this out. So over here, where are you going to show me your ports? It's a private question, Mini, but you got to show it to us. Come on. There it is. Okay, so check this out. On my MacBook Pro laptop, I have an adapter for HDMI from my 4K monitor into one of the ports. And then I have a power plug into another one of the ports. So look at this. So my power plug right here and my HDMI, those are 2 used USB ports.
They don't count.
And they don't count here. I have just as many USB 4 ports and 2 USB-C ports, or USB-A ports. So on the Mini, you basically, if you're using an extra monitor and you want to plug it in, you have more ports, even than the Pro, right? So people,
it's cool on a laptop to just plug one Thunderbolt 3 thing in and get everything. But that's only because you're walking away with it every day.
Right, and I could do that here if I want, right? But I just hear people go on and on like, oh, you only get 2 ports. Like with the Mini, you actually get 6 ports equivalent to what you had before.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we probably killed enough time. What do you think? Yes. Oh, I can install this thing for this PyCharm thing. Okay, you're going to have to help me here. That's not awesome. Let's try the other one.
You have to open a new shell, right?
Yeah. It looks like it put some kind of weird alias. Anyway, does Conda do anything yet? Where did it put it? Anaconda. Not there? No. Oh,
it just said install today.
Yeah, it's indexing again. It's usually quick about indexing, but here we go. We can open the navigator. Which is starting. Again, all these things are like slow the first time you do it. It did mess up something with my Z shell, but whatever, I'll deal with that later. That's why that's something about my Z shell setup here's got wonky from this. Okay, so I can create an environment. I'm going to create one called stream. Oh, no. That's all I can create. Oh, that hurts.
But you're under Rosetta, so you don't care about having the ARM version.
Yeah. Although I think the built-in one might be ARM. I'm not sure. We're going to find out. All right, it's doing stuff. Loading packages. All right, great. And let's see. We don't have Jupyter. We're going to install that. See if it
You and I
makes
have
it
talked
through.
about CPU, we talked about GPU, but there's other chips on the M1 system on a chip.
There's the ML ones, which sound pretty interesting.
Indeed.
There's like 16 core. And by the way, if I get this thing is super cool. Like, let's go to Unsplash. Are you familiar with Unsplash?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's take if you're not familiar with Unsplash, there's really cool stuff you can do. Like, this has some words on it. Let's download this. And these are usually huge. Royalty-free stuff you can do. Here, let's cancel that. Open that. So this one, if I want to do like a imagery size, let's say we don't want it super ginormous, you just want it 2000, we can do machine learning super resolution. Have you seen this? Let's do it. What? That was instant. Did you see that?
We live in a time of magic.
Oh my gosh. If I had done that on the other machine, it would go, thinking.
And
Yeah,
your,
I'm not trying with this.
your room temperature would increase.
It would. Oh my goodness. That kind of blows my mind. Yeah, I'm going to
See that, but let's dive a little deeper on that. Your point is that didn't run on the CPU, right?
No, that ran on the
16 or the
GPU.
GPU.
Core. Yeah, the 16 core machine learning.
Yep.
Whatever chip. Yeah, and this, by the way, this Pixelmator Pro is an M1 native thing. Look, did you see how fast it is? And look at this. That's 800 times zoomed in, but look how clear that text is. And I went from 6,000 to 700 or something like that. And
Michael, do you think there will be a day when we can kind of scroll through a Camtasia 4K video without stuttering? Is that day going to be in our future?
I hope so. I hope Camtasia gets fixed up.
Yeah. All right.
Wait, I don't know what that thing did to my .zshrc, but it doesn't matter because here we are. We're
all right, Jupiter, baby.
All right, I'm going to go. Wait, where do I see?
Got a notebook locally that's got some.
Oh, I got to do new. Sorry, I'm used to Jupyter Lab these days. Do I have requests? Nope. Where do I go? Which one do I choose?
Your multiverses needs navigation tips.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to go like this. This one, pip install -- user requests. Nope. Try this one. It's already satisfied. So it must be the Conda.
Huh.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, well, apparently we can do something here. I'm not sure what we've got in our environment here. Let's go over to our Anaconda thing, to our environment. This one, I guess, I could probably just install requests here, because who wouldn't want to do? No, it is installed there. I'm not sure what's up. It's possible that whatever it did, that error that it had when it launched, whatever that is, it could be sending it down the wrong path. But I don't think that's an M1 thing. I think it's just busted my shell thing. But it looks like Jupyter is up and running. We could try this. Import map. I don't think this will work either, but matplotlib. Nope. But I think that's just which environment. I don't get a pick, do I? Here, let's try
Boy,
this.
I'd love for you to get some guests to come on in the next couple of months from the Python data science community and talk about any action that's happening to get some of the C libraries pointed at these ML chips.
Yeah, that would be super fun, right? It would be really neat, especially the ML side of things for those folks. But also the single CPU core speed is almost twice the speed, so that would be really nice as well.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Like when I open up a shell to the same environment, I get my stuff is installed, but for some reason my notebook. I'm probably just not good enough with notebooks from the Anacondas. I just pip install them usually, and then I know what I'm doing. But anyway, I'm pretty impressed with this machine, and so far I've been able to do all my work. This is the thing that unlocked it, though. It's this Rosetta terminal homebrew, and then I can just go from there, and it just falls back to what happened on Intel. They have to be interpreted, but it's all good.
I like the comment from Ilya.
Yeah, you want to feel like you bought real software, Ilya, not just some random thing. Yeah, here you go.
Slow it down and put a spinner or something just so you'll feel like it's working.
Yeah, I mean, like the native stuff. So right, if I click this before the bounce completes, it's already loaded. You know, if I do that for this, I mean, this took forever to start. Let's see.
But now it's translated, right?
Yeah, it should. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, it seems like it's responding quicker. It was still a little bit slow before, but yeah, it's better. So the first time is always drags on these as it interprets the things, but then it goes pretty well. All right, well, I don't have a whole lot more to share, I guess. I mean, my big thing was, can I install the database? Can I install Python? Can I install PyCharm? And then can I install the requirements? And then will they work together? All those things worked. And I'm really kind of blown away that the PyTest run 50% faster, but the individual page speed, seen at least from the browser side, is a tiny bit slower. So I can't really reconcile.
And this
those
is on
things.
the cheapest Macintosh you can buy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I probably would behave that way on the $700 version, right? I mean, I got 2 terabytes of storage, and that's like a super expensive. Wish it didn't cost so much, but it has no effect on the performance, right? Maybe it's slower even on a bigger drive. I don't know. I don't really know.
I'm glad you're closing by emphasizing the real world thing. Sure, it's fun to go talk about fantasy land, about ML and specialty chips and stuff like that, but you have an actual working application that brings in the money.
Yeah,
and it all got over quick, and not only that, it runs fast as hell.
Yeah, it's already some ways faster or nearly as fast, and it's not native. When it goes native, it's going to smoke. You know, it's going to be even better, right? When you got a native database, you got a native Python, it'll be sweet. So, yeah, I'm pretty encouraged. I was unsure if I'd be able to use this as my main machine, and so far I can. And by the way, we happen to be streaming as well, right? So
good point.
We're sitting here doing like live streaming over this. I've got my microphone plugged into like a mixer, USB-C mixer that I just plugged in. I didn't have to do anything but plug it in. My 4K little camera thing, I just plugged it in, fire up StreamYard, and off we go, right?
The only CPU fan you hear is on my computer that's kind of an observer.
Exactly. Just to display, to participate in this. It's
Yes.
It's definitely taken a lot out of it. All right. Well, Paul, I really appreciate you being here. It made it a lot more fun to be able to go back and forth and chat about it. And I guess
thanks for sending this message. I think it's important for the Python world to be listening to it.
Yeah, you're definitely welcome. Thanks for being part of it. And we're gonna reverse roll soon. I'll join your StreamYard with the PyCharm crew to talk about something else, right? Maybe you can tell people real quick while you're here.
Indeed. What's really super hot in the world of Python web frameworks, Fast API. And you have a new course came out within the past few weeks at Talk Python Training, and you're going to be giving basically kind of a preview of that course, but getting people oriented with Fast API. What is it? Why should they care? Talking about real world kinds of things. And we'll be doing it kind of in a format a little bit like this, instead of a webinar where Michael's just kind of at the podium in the front lecturing to all of us. We'll be talking a little bit back and forth, taking questions from the audience, getting Michael to show us the things that matter with Fast API.
Yeah. We'll build an app that uses async and await and Pydantic that will tell you if you have to bring an umbrella for the day or not anywhere in the world with real live data.
And I don't know, Pydantic, man, I just love Pydantic.
I know. You know what I just started doing? I started using Pydantic in Flask.
I
have this Flask thing, and I really don't want to write my own models and pull that stuff over. I'm like, all I got to do is just go with flash.getJSON ***, and now I'm doing like what happens at the framework level in Fast API. So kind of bringing all those things together and making me happy.
Well said.
Nice. Let me answer one real quick thing because who was it? Stefan said, I'm not really sure that ML machine learning thing was very complicated. Let me run it on my Mac and just tell you literally like what is the time. So let me just pull it on that same image.
So for people who might have joined late, Michael gave a demo of getting an image, pumping it into Pixelmator Pro, and doing a little bit of image manipulation. And it was so fast that it felt like the M1 went back in time to do it.
Yeah, it felt fake because it just happened. It just got smaller, but there was no time experienced on it. All right, so let me do this again. All right, it may just go super fast and they've just made it fast. Let's see. It's pretty fast over here as well. It's not as fast. You see a little progress bar, but still pretty excellent. I think maybe the resizing up. Let me do that one more time.
I saw a demo
that's super
of.
slow. Let me do it over here. Keep going.
I saw a demo of replacing a background, which was a lot more image intensive, computationally intensive, and it was immediate.
Yeah. All right. So I took it. The part that's slow is going bigger. Yeah. That seems like a lot quicker. So, yeah.
Hey, have you produced a podcast episode yet on the M1?
Hold on, I have numbers for you, and then I'll answer that question.
Okay.
It's about 3 times slower on the Intel version to do the resize.
The Pixelmator Pro?
Yeah, to do the machine enlarging. I have basically produced one. So my voice is a little scratchy. I'm getting over a cough. So I tried to produce one this morning. I'm like, record. I'm like, nope, got to delete. There's just like a little intro, outro. I'm like, but I can't record that because it sounds so out of sync. It's like, who let the frog in? Anyway, Adobe Audition works. GarageBand is like nobody's business. It's like instant.
So all of those kind of plugins and effects,
all that
the
stuff.
reverb and stuff.
Yeah, I have all sorts of like cool automation to clean up the audio, denoise and noise gate it and stuff. That stuff is quicker than on my Intel one, and even Audacity I use to actually build the MP3s.
And just to be clear, when you say faster than my Intel one, you don't mean an i3.
No,
you don't mean an i5.
Core i9, 6-core hyper-threaded. Like super expensive processor. Yeah. Probably would be faster than my even more expensive Alienware Threadripper, right? I haven't tried it because they're like, that's just for gaming. But yeah, probably would.
Hey, you want 20,000 responses on Twitter? Go challenge the Threadripper, baby.
Oh yeah, that's right. I like that. Ilya's a fan of no fan, and it is really weird to have so much silence. Like it's just quiet. The only way you know it's on is that whether the little super tiny light is on or not. There's no other indicator. There's no warmth. The fan is not strong enough to feel it. There's no sound. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. And what's Stefan saying? Cost-wise, everything is faster, faster than an Apple. What I think is really interesting, and Paul, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well, just real quick. Maybe we'll wrap it up with this. I think we are at an inflection point in computing with these M1 chips, not because of Apple, but because they've somehow managed to bundle up ARM in a way that is just sort of got us back on the Moore's law. I was just thinking this morning, when I was younger, my first computer I paid for with my own money when I was in early high school was I got a 486 DX33. Had a turbo button. You turn it off, it goes to 25 megahertz. You click it, it goes 30. The next computer that came out, the next one I could buy that I eventually did was a Pentium 90. 33 to 90. Like that jump is like 3 times, right? It was such a difference. And it's been so long since I had that feeling, but working with this thing, I have a little bit of that like, whoa, that just got really different, not just slightly better.
Yeah, I believe you're exactly right that it's tempting to say it's overhyped, but there's a multiplier effect here of the system on a chip part and the vertical integration part, where the operating system maker is combined with the chipset maker and all the accessories and stuff like that, plus some old-fashioned bold leap forward like the unified memory architecture. There's just some things going on that resets everyone's expectations, and 20% faster is not going to do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think these are the slowest M1s you'll ever experience.
Indeed, yeah.
Right? I mean, they're already talking, well, we're just going to add, going from 4 to 32 cores, right? I mean, I know it has 4 slow cores, 4 fast cores, but I can't remember which the number they were. Is it 4 and some of them are slower, faster? Is it 32 and some are slow and faster? Is it all 32 or the high performance? But anyway, what's coming is dramatically more in a short period of time. So I think it's just going to be super interesting. And the cost of these things, like this is $700, right? This thing is almost as fast.
Think of it this way. Before this came out, the Nokia was like premium. Like, what more could you want from a phone?
Yeah, yeah.
And then within 3 years, it was laughable to think about, what if we were still stuck with that? What if the current i9 sitting over there is like a Nokia, and 3 years from now, this new architecture, not just for Apple, but for everybody, is going to be so much of a leap forward?
Yep. It's going to be super, super neat. Ilya says, yeah, I remember the turbo button. I only used the turbo button once. I had a game that went too fast on my Pentium. Unclick the turbo button, I could play it again. It made me happy, but it's such a weird idea.
My senior year of college, I did my senior study on AutoCAD, AutoLisp on a 286 without a math chip.
Oh,
and so I had to get a shareware thing that emulated the math chip. That was slow.
Yeah, I can remember. I remember those things. I didn't get my own 286, but yeah. Impressive. All right, Paul. Thanks
for having me, Michael.
Yeah, thanks for being here to explore this stuff. Catch you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.